So why is Fox News making such a big deal out of the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So far be it from me to defend a nameless, faceless, large American corporation that has shown itself to be insensitive to its employees and to the public in general. Frankly, I was very supportive of the union's efforts to try to get some better benefits for its employees. And I supported efforts for Congress to essentially require more days off for employees of the railroads. Unfortunately, that idea ran into the buzzsaw of Congress and stopped it in its tracks. But frankly, it's really hard to feel sorry for these railroads. I mean, they've been enjoying record profits while at the same time abusing their employees and actually working to reduce their safety record. There was actually a regulation put in place by the Obama administration that would have required more advanced brakes for the trains. Frankly, the kind of brakes that might have avoided this derailment. That regulation, by the way, was eliminated by the Trump administration and their beautiful efforts to get rid of overregulation of business. And that's kind of what's frustrating watching this whole situation, which is how Fox News and the right have turned people who really should be enthusiastic about government and looking to government as a partner. I mean, after all, government is us, right? To try to address these threats to society as a whole. I mean, that's kind of what government's supposed to do, right? But yet these are the same people who support Donald Trump in his efforts to get rid of regulations, the very things that might have protected them from this kind of derailment. And that's kind of the trick, frankly, that conservatives have been able to accomplish, which is to turn government from an ally in holding these corporations liable and responsible into the enemy, and generating this sense of grievance and isolation, which has driven the MAGA movement across the country. And the case in East Palestine is just too juicy to ignore. What makes it especially attractive to Fox News is the fact that this is an overwhelmingly white community that voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. And so Fox News is able to point fingers at those irresponsible government officials from the Biden administration who are ignoring them, hinting that they're being ignored either because of their political leanings or because of the fact that they're white, trying to gin up that racial resentment that has been so successful for Republicans, forgetting the fact that Ohio actually has a Republican administration, a Republican legislature. Certainly, if these people were so strongly Republican, then the state would certainly be paying attention to them, right? But that doesn't fit with the narrative that Fox News is trying to spew, which is they've been looking for some opportunity to allow racist, relatively uneducated whites to stoke their grievances against people who don't look like them, and to generate resentment against America's support for the Ukrainian resistance to the Russian invasion, despite the fact that neither really has anything to do with the other. I mean, let's check out this video here.
All right. Meanwhile, other news. President Biden's EPA administrator finally has visited East Palestine 2 weeks after the toxic train derailment that sent that black stuff flying.
But Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is not going and said
this.
Horrible situation has gotten a particularly high amount of attention. There are roughly 1,000 cases a year of a train derailing.
Okay, now the point that Pete Buttigieg was making here is that isn't it funny that this one train derailment is getting the attention of Fox News? Makes you wonder why. Could it have something to do with the complexion of the residents? And it also points out the fact that this is not some isolated problem that we should just throw up our hands and say, oh, you know, the administration is ignoring this one train derailment, when really what has to happen is there needs to be a systematic effort to address safety problems on the rails. But let's keep watching to see how Fox News responds.
Now I feel better. Well, I can't drink my water or take a shower. Our next guests live just a few miles from the derailment. Lisa Toner and Linda Murphy join us now for their reaction. So,
Now, just watch out here. I mean, this is very, very savvy by Fox News. They're trying to pick people who look like people who suburban and rural white people would be able to relate to, and giving them a soapbox on which to essentially complain. So watch what they actually say here.
I guess, Ms. Murphy, why don't I ask you this? How do you feel about so many derailments the Secretary of Transportation can't be bothered to come visit you?
You notice, by the way, they're trying to personalize it, like somehow he couldn't be bothered, not stating the fact that, maybe he's got an entire country to worry about. Let's keep watching.
Oh, well, what a relief that we're at the bottom of the list out of 1,000. I mean, how insignificant does that make you?
Now, again, they're not at the bottom of the list out of 1,000 because the EPA administrator has gone to East Palestine. And the EPA administrator is, of course, the one who is tasked with dealing with environmental catastrophes. The Secretary of Transportation would deal with the issue of the ongoing process of transportation. Frankly, once the derailment happens, it's out of the hands of the Department of Transportation. What's more is it's also worth remembering that the EPA has been providing funding for this cleanup and testing. So it's not like these people have been ignored, but that doesn't play into the sense of grievance. Because white grievance is stroked by, it's never enough. I want more. I want more. There's this image that's been developed of what are called Karens. I remember when my daughter first told me that name. She worked in retail at the time and was telling me about these white women who would come feeling incredibly entitled. And just watch how these two people behave like Karens.
You feel, to me,
it's all about this sense of entitlement. I deserve everything. I'm special simply because I'm white. Let's keep watching.
it's his job. And this is something that he should be here for. This is pretty significant, the amount of chemicals, cancer-causing chemicals that were released and what we're left to deal with. We need a little bit of guidance here, and I don't know. I think that this deserves a pink slip for his job. Where else is there a derailment right now where they're dealing with what we're dealing with? What else is going on other than these balloons floating through the sky that he's...
There are actually other derailments where they're dealing with what they're dealing with, and that's the point that he was making. Let's keep watching.
He's working on or concerned with.
Yeah, although there was a derailment, same railroad company in Detroit yesterday. Lisa.
Yes, that's exactly it, in Detroit. Now, what's the difference between Detroit and East Palestine? Do the people look different there? Let's keep watching.
So I know that you know this painfully well. They said, okay, 1 mile around the disaster site, we're going to monitor everything. And, we're going to keep an eye on things, and we're going to take care of the people. You live 1.08 miles from the explosion site. You don't trust anybody. You're hiring people to do your own testing, right?
Okay, let's start with this. 2 points. Number one, the they that they're referring to are state officials who are Republicans. Number two, focus on how they keep emphasizing you don't trust anyone. And literally, there's nothing that anybody can do can convince you that they're telling the truth. Let's keep watching.
Correct. We have well water. And I want to be safe and make sure that it's going to be done correctly. And I'm going to be told the truth on what's in my well water.
And are you drinking bottled water right now?
So they're hiring their own testers, because of the fact that testing that's been done by the EPA and by the state has shown that there are no toxic levels of chemicals in the water right now. But they don't believe it because they know better. And even if that were the case, they deserve more because after all, they're white, right? But what you don't hear, and believe me, we'd be hearing about this, is that when these tests have come back, you haven't heard about any of them finding that there are toxic levels of chemicals. All you hear is this, I don't trust the government, and so I'm going to do my own testing. Let's keep watching.
Now?
Yes, we are.
For how long?
Forever until I get answers. We're not getting no answers. Nobody's wanting to help us.
Nobody's wanting to help us. We're not getting no answers. Reminder again, the EPA administrator has gone there, and there have literally been employees of the EPA going door to door in the area doing testing. But that's not enough. Why? Because it's never enough. There is nothing you can do to make these people happy. I hate to say it, but I am well aware of this type of person, having worked in municipal government here in Macomb County, Michigan. Macomb County, of course, is one of the 3 counties across the country that helped hand the 2016 election to Donald Trump. And we're familiar with these noisy, resentful white gadflies, that's what we call them around here, whose hobby appears to complain and be resentful, even though when you look at the facts, it really doesn't support their resentments. Let's keep watching.
Linda, how are you affected by this? Anything? Are you the scratchy throat or the eyes, or noticing anything with your pets? And what are you doing about your water?
Well, the same as my fellow resident, we have well water, and we're really concerned. And thankfully, we had a wonderful viewer of Fox who donated some water to us for our horses. Arrowhead Wine Cellars in Erie, Pennsylvania, drove all the way down and donated water to us for our horses. Something that we can't rely on these big agencies to do. A complete stranger miles away donated that for us. So what a blessing that is.
No kidding.
And thankful for that. But as far as any side effects, I've had a headache and just an odd tingling sensation, like in the gums and on my lips occasionally. And that's what I've noticed, but I know that some other residents are experiencing things of the similar nature, and a lot of children are having some issues with rashes, discoloration of the skin.
You know what's funny? I had a headache yesterday, and my grandson will occasionally have rashes and sneeze. Maybe I should blame the government. What do you think? And that's the point about this. There is no real rational basis for their arguments. They have no scientific support for the fact that they're in any kind of danger. And the government has come running trying to help them. In fact, as I pointed out, cleanup is the EPA's job. And here they are talking about how they're going to be fining Norfolk Southern. But again, nothing government does is going to be enough. Because what matters to them is their sense of entitlement and their resentment that somehow they're not being treated as special. I mean, there's been all sorts of coverage about the fact that Joe Biden has gone to Ukraine in really what was a courageous and historic and important trip. But Donald Trump went to East Palestine because, you know, whenever white grievance is at play, that's exactly where Donald Trump wants to be. Well, if you want to see another video that discusses how Fox News is constantly trying to gin up right resentment in an effort to help Republicans and boost its own ratings, check out this video over here. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.